Sam McQuillan has been very busy. I see him making a lot of appearances talking about these big stories online here from Legal Sports Report. And, certainly the biggest story that Sam has dealt with here in sports betting, I would assume. And Sam is going to spend some time now here with us going over it. So much debate is coming out of the Post story with this, Sam. And I think that's probably a good place to start. Because by now, I think most people know that NBA player in Terry Rozier was arrested for allegedly shaving points off his props. Chauncey Billups arrested for allegedly running a poker ring that was rigged, and you're seeing all these kind of things from that. But the fallout is now the story at this point, Sam. And when what's happening is you're doing shows and you're getting asked questions from people like me. Is sports betting bad? Should we get rid of sports betting? Should partners in the NBA be partnering up? And they're like silly conversations to have because we just know that they're not going away. But it does open up the conversation, I think, to how to make things a little bit cleaner and better so that the average fan who really doesn't understand can know that they feel safe placing bets and know that the players that are involved are not getting, paid to not perform. And I think that is probably the place that I'd like to start with you today.
Yeah, it's a lot to unpack. It's definitely the biggest sports betting scandal we've had in about a year. We've had a number of these, random college betting investigations that have gone on, and one that's actually ongoing and connected to the group that's allegedly behind this scheme as well. But I think the really interesting thing in terms of fallout is the fact that, the NBA had already cleared one of these players, Terry Rozier. He wasn't a surprise name. We had already heard that there was that game from, I believe, March 2023, that he was allegedly, had tipped off a friend that he wasn't going to, finish the game and fake an injury. And, the FBI came out with more reports on exactly how that worked with, sending money over to his house and everything. But the fact that the NBA cleared him of any wrongdoing in the investigation that it had, it seized his phone. It allowed him to play for 2 more years. And then all of a sudden yesterday, it seems like the NBA didn't even know this was coming. The FBI comes out and announces not only is he going to jail, but current head coach Chauncey Billups is going to jail as well as a ex-head coach for the Cavs, Damon Jones, who's a longtime friend of LeBron. So I think the big thing here is why didn't the league find any of this beforehand? Now they don't have subpoena power of the FBI. They don't have, the resources they do. And the timing is definitely really interesting too, right? Like you talk about 2 days into the NBA season. You just had 2 great games to start on NBC. Yeah. Victor Wembanyama was making headlines with his great play, and all of a sudden the FBI comes out with not just the director of the FBI, who I've never seen involved in anything like this, but you have the DOJ there, you have law enforcement from New York, you have law enforcement from Pennsylvania, you have a whole organized effort. So clearly they'd been working on this for a long time, and there was a lot of people who knew about it, except for the NBA. So I think now you have to go, where does the NBA go from here in terms of public image, like you're mentioning with, player availability, with tanking games. It came out in the indictment as well that allegedly Billups, not only was part of this poker ring, but that he had notified someone that they were going to tank the rest of their season when they went 1-9. So, It's never good when the NBA has to deal with that kind of stuff. They've already been dealing with a lot of concerns about injuries and tankings and everything like that. So we don't even know the full picture as well. They call this only the tip of the iceberg. So I think the NBA is going to be playing catch up during the worst time of the year for it to be playing catch up, which is right at the start of the season.
Yeah. So here's, I'll share my opinion with you on this, is that the actual games themselves, I don't think need to be touched at all. I still think that having these safeguards in place are the reason why we found out about these stories, and stuff like this has probably been going on for years in the black market, in overseas, offshores, etc. But Sam, I think I just have a very simple solution to all this, and I just don't know why this is. Look, there's 2 things for me. The first is there's just so much stuff to bet. Do we really need props? If the answer is yes, okay, I'm good with that. But Sam, why not just limit the amount of money that you can get down on props? Wouldn't that just completely solve this problem? Everybody can get their little taste. But if the max bet on a prop is $500 or $1,000, I mean, maybe guys still will do it even at that point to make their $15,000 or something like that. Okay, fine. But you heard the number, $200,000. Not a lot of money to Terry Rozier. Not a lot of money to anybody who plays in the NBA, but still a lot of money to us and to some buddy of his, of course, that could cash in on 100 grand. What, am I crazy for thinking that? It just seems to me it's the easiest solution.
Yeah, that's how this stuff was even caught in the first place, right? You had $200,000 placed on Terry Rozier's unders, which usually bets of that size don't get placed on a player like that. That's how they caught Jonte Porter, right? All of a sudden, there was tons of money coming in on his bets before the game. Also, the timing of it too. These were huge amounts of money that were placed on these props before the injury reports had come out. So, you know, the sports books, to your point, Craig, the reason it's getting caught, the legal sports books where these bets were placed, they said, oh, wow, this was all before the injury reports came out, which I think goes back to my earlier point of, you know, the NBA had that information. Why did they not really do anything with that? But as far as limiting prop bets, you know, I think it's always going to be a conversation of, you know, you get rid of bets in one place, and obviously the black market has not been stamped out. Some of these bets were going on illegal sports books as well. It wasn't just FanDuel and DraftKings. And one of the ways that these conspirators allegedly tried to navigate what you're talking about, where you identify, you know, $15,000 being placed on a random prop, is by using a network of individuals where they're all placing small amounts at different sports books across the nation. So, you know, this is the Genovese, the Colombo, the Bonanno crime families that we're talking about implicated in this. I think the bottom line is, yes, this people are going to try to exploit the law no matter what. And to your point, it being legal is the reason that this was caught. If this was all done offshore on illegal sports books, I don't think that we would have caught this. And I think when we talk about the tip of the iceberg, there's probably a lot more going on like this that we don't know yet. I think one solution that we've talked about is banning prop bets on minor players. That was a result that we saw of the whole Jonte Porter thing last year. He was like the 12th, 13th ban on the Raptors. You can no longer bet on players like that. You're seeing the menu of NBA players that you're able to bet on really shrink, where it's only really the starters and a few key players. I think sports books have themselves been a lot more hesitant to offer that just from an optics standpoint. And certainly one other thing that's being floated out there is, why are we even letting people bet on the unders? You know, if someone has inside information, for example, that LeBron James is going to, you know, miss the game, but play 5 minutes and, you know, check out as soon as he scores his 50,000th point or whatever. Why are we allowing people to bet on their underperformance? Let's only allow them to bet on our overperformance. And I think that's something that you're probably going to see resonate with lawmakers as a more palpable kind of solution to this, rather than just banning prop bets altogether. Because while it might look good politically, I think if you get rid of prop bets altogether, it just pushes this stuff even more to the black market. And hopefully, you know, what comes out of this is something good. You know, players are they see now that you really can't do this. You're really going to get caught, and you're really going to get screwed if you do.
Yeah. So, you know, the other surprising part for me, Sam, is to hear that Chauncey Billups is, you know, heavily involved in this. It's just like, it makes me want to be a little bit skeptical and say it just doesn't add up that a player of his stature with championships and Hall of Fames and rings and a head coach would get involved. It almost seems like maybe at some point, I'm going to guess his defense is just like, I didn't know, you know, like I just can't believe it. Like that to me is the biggest surprise from this story. Rozier, I don't know a ton about, obviously, but Billups I've known forever.
Yeah, we've known Billups forever. He has a reputation across the league as a guy of integrity. And that's something that his lawyer reiterated in the statement they put out, where they essentially denied all wrongdoing and said they're going to fight the case. So I agree. It is very strange to see him involved there as well. And especially from the standpoint of, he was a current head coach in the NBA while this was happening. We get back to the conversation of, why would someone sacrifice all this for so little? You also don't know what exploitation or extortion was at hand here. We're talking about the mafia. These guys might not have been doing it to make an extra buck. They might have, you know, been doing it to save somebody or save themselves from some sort of impending threat.
Have a great weekend, Sam. Thanks for coming on.
You too. Thanks.